There are people out there right now that need your leadership more than ever. They need your courage to stand up and speak your word, to speak your truth, the things you resonate with, your values, your vision, your mission, and having a sense of purpose behind that. It starts with getting super clear and then ensuring that you're living in alignment with that. Look around right now. Our society, it feels like it's going crazy. It feels like it's unraveling. It's very easy to believe that, especially if you're one of those people, hopefully you're not, that still subscribes to the mainstream media narrative. If you're listening to that shit, they're naturally going to tell you that the world's on the brink and that we're all going insane. And if you're not following the narrative, you too are going to be a part of the problem. Well, here's the reality, and here's the tough medicine that I want to share with you today. That's bullshit. Don't listen to it, number one. And number two, what's up, my friends? JT DeBolt with you today for the True Driven Podcast, the podcast for the few, the true, the driven, those remarkable people we call the True Driven. And I say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time it is for you, no matter where you might be tuning in from on the Big Blue Marble. Thank you as always for joining me, and for all of our new friends, welcome to the community. Welcome to the family. Great to have you with us. You can, of course, catch us on all the major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iTunes, or whatever the heck they're calling it these days, as well as YouTube. Go over to youtube.com/JT DeBolt. Lots of extra content that you'll be finding there. And as always, subscribe there. Love that. Love when you guys stay connected. I got a ton of stuff coming at you. And yes, I admit it's been a hot minute since we've had a podcast episode. A little bit more on that in a second. I want to kind of share with you how much it means to me that you guys have been reaching out and asking, hey, when's the new podcast coming out? What's the new content going to look like? It's been a minute and a half since we've heard from you. I appreciate all of that. And it's been a huge indicator to me that there's a necessity and a need for the message, which is interesting because it folds nicely into really the spark that brought about this episode. This episode was actually going to come out a couple of weeks from now, but I fast forwarded to today because I wanted to get this message out after something that had happened recently. I'll tell you what that was. So a while back, there's a guy I follow. His name is Sean Whalen. You may have heard of him. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Lions Not Sheep. And he made a post on a social media platform one day about a book he was reading and referenced how the author himself had kind of made a huge impact on his life. And so I start following this author and start to get to really resonate with his message. Bought his book, read it, thought, man, this is a really good book. It wasn't necessarily, if I'm being honest, the book that I was looking for at the time. I'm not going to get into that. But I will say this, that through following the author, he had mentioned that he was having a pre-sale on a new book that was coming out. And he kind of talked a little bit about what the book was going to be. And I thought, man, this is right down the middle of what I'm looking for leadership training and leadership development. The author's name is Erwin Raphael McManus. And the book in question is 7 Frequencies of Communication. So I pre-ordered this. It came in the mail last night. I cracked this thing this morning. And I'll be damned if it wasn't chapter 1. I think it's like let's find out, page 23. Right at the very beginning of the book, he's telling a story about a blue whale. Now, for those of you that don't know, blue whales typically communicate they use sounds, and they kind of use that echolocation. It kind of sounds like a song, sometimes kind of like almost like a mysterious, eerie, spooky sound in the ocean. You probably have heard this. Well, unbeknownst to me, these blue whales communicate at a frequency level between 10 and 40 hertz. Interesting. And they can communicate over vast distances. They can communicate emotions. They can communicate ideas. And it's basically their version of text or email or anything like that. What's interesting is somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, they discovered a whale that actually communicated at a different frequency. By the way, another interesting thing about whales is you can actually, it's almost like their thumbprint or their fingerprint. Every single whale has a very unique sound, and very unique, even though it's inside that registry of 10 to 40 hertz, their actual song, if you will, is unique to them. And then one day, these researchers heard one that was way outside of the 40 hertz. In fact, it was at 52 hertz. That's what they measured it at. They actually named the whale 52 hertz. They gave it the name because it was the only whale that they had ever found that communicated at that level. And because of that, the whale could not be heard by the rest of the blue whale society, rest of, the blue whale population. Not only that, but 52 hertz is what they named the whale. 52 hertz couldn't hear the rest of the whales. So they named 52 hertz the loneliest whale in the world. I know it sounds sad, but there's a point to this story. And I want to just share this passage with you that McManus put, again, chapter 1, page 23. This one rattled me, man. When I first heard of 52 hertz, I instantly resonated with his story. I had come to realize that I naturally spoke at an alternative frequency to most of the world around me. My mission became to find those who hear at 52 hertz and make sure that they knew that they are not alone in the world. I think that's amazing. Because when I first started True Driven, that was quite literally where I was coming from. I wanted to make sure that people that were driven to become excellent leaders and to find that personal excellence for themselves, that they were not alone in the world, that they had a place to come together. And that's the whole point of True Driven. It actually occurred to me, it hit me, I think somewhere around 2018 or 2019. I was at a really frustrating point in my career. I'd had a great career as a speaker, as an author, as a performance coach, working with athletes and entrepreneurs and executives and people just all around the world that were driven for high performance. And so I was, at this point, I'd built a team and I had somebody working with me that was not a fit for the team. In fact, I was on the way, we were kind of going down the path where I was going to exit this person from the team. But I'll never forget this. I was working out one day in the gym, getting a particularly hard workout, and somehow the clarity came to me. It always does when you're gassed, when you've put out as hard as you can. And I was sitting there and the term true driven hit me. And it hit me because I remember this person saying, "Oh yeah, I'm really driven." Talking about how hard they work, the hardest worker in the gym, that kind of crap, right? That whole bravado that you oftentimes hear from these wannabe alphas. And this particular person made that comment and I'm like, man, that's not what true driven means. Bam! It was just the word hit me like a lightning bolt through the back of my head. And it occurred to me through the period of this podcast, working with putting out episodes, how hard it felt and at times felt like burnout. It felt like I was sending out a message that wasn't being heard, kind of like 52 hertz. And it felt like, what's the point to this? Has this ever happened to you where you felt like your message, your song, if you want to call it that, isn't being heard by the people around you? The natural tendency might be to do one of a few things. One, you might think, well, maybe I need to change my tune. Maybe I need to fit in more. Two, maybe I just need to double down and be harder core. Or three, maybe I just need to quit. Maybe it's not for me. And there's a point where I think if you're not careful and you're not listening to the kind of inputs that you're getting from your environment, it's very easy to walk down any one of those paths. I'm sure there's more than those three, but I'm just referring to those three for this purpose of this episode. When I read that passage today, I thought about you guys. I was like, you know what, man, my true drivens out there, there are people right now that need to hear the message of the power of personal leadership, the necessity for personal leadership. Look around right now. Our society, it feels like it's going crazy. It feels like it's unraveling. It's very easy to believe that, especially if you're one of those people, hopefully you're not, that still subscribes to the mainstream media narrative. If you're listening to that shit, they're naturally going to tell you that the world's on the brink and that we're all going insane. And if you're not following the narrative, you too are going to be a part of the problem. Well, here's the reality, and here's kind of the tough medicine that I want to share with you today. That's bullshit. Don't listen to it, number one. And number two, you're going to be singing or speaking or whatever it is, calling out at your version of 52 hertz. But here's the good news. Unlike blue whales that only communicate between 10 and 40, there is a small cross-section of society, the true drivens, that want to hear you, that will resonate with you, that want to communicate with you. And that's the whole point, the reason I started this, not just the podcast, but the true driven movement. There's a community, there's a whole thing associated with this. And I'll be bringing some more stuff, some more resources for you guys soon. So I want you to stay tuned for that. But my point is this. There are people out there right now that need your leadership more than ever. They need your courage to stand up and speak your word, to speak your truth. I say your truth. What I mean by that is the things you resonate with. If you guys have followed me long enough, you know I talk about the big four, right? Your values, your vision, your mission, and having a sense of purpose behind that. That's the big four. So it starts with getting super clear on what your values are, not just your core values, but the things that you value in life. And then ensuring that you're living in alignment with that you're living in truth to that, with integrity to those things. That's the first part, because you will literally set yourself apart from the vast majority of your peers just by getting clear on your values and then staying true to those things, living them on a daily basis. When we talk about vision, we're talking about the overarching understanding of what you want from and for your life and the impact you intend for that to make on the world around you. Not necessarily the world as a whole, because again, we're not trying to sing to the 10 to 40% or 10 to 40 Hertz rather. We're trying to sing to our 52 Hertz. Metaphorically speaking, that's what we're looking to do. And so when you get very clear on the vision that you have for your life, not just what you want from life, but how you intend to attain that, how you intend to achieve that, that's when you show up and you stand out. I've done this from stage before where I talk to audiences, especially with entrepreneurs. It's always fun to speak with entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs are typically economically focused. They want to make money. They want to earn revenue with their business. And so I'll say, hey, what would be an awesome mark for you to hit financially? Could be $1 million. Let's just say it is. Or let's say it's 100,000. And I'm like, great. And when would you like to achieve that? And people will shout out from this, by tomorrow, right? Or by the end of the year. That's great. So I'll simply say to them, like usually we'll be in a big city, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, someplace like that. Let's go out on the street. Let's find us somebody who can sell us some crack, and then we'll go ahead and resell that. If we keep doing that over a short period of time, we'll have $100,000 in very little time. Well, of course, I get laughs, I get groans and things like that from those same people because they say, well, you didn't say it. That's not how I would do it. Well, that's not what you stated. You said that what you wanted was to earn a certain amount of money. And see, here's the thing about society. Society will fall for anything as long as it's security, as long as it's convenience, as long as it feels good. If you hit those 3 bullets for most people, if you push those 3 buttons, you got them. Because most people don't live by their values and they have no sense of a vision for what they want for their life. They just know what they want, but not how they would go about getting it. So they'll fall for anything because they don't stand for anything. And that's the difference with true drivens, isn't it? That's the difference between you, me, and the rest of the world, is that we are willing to stand on our feet with conviction and pursue the things that we believe in for the reasons we believe in it. Not just what we want, but how we want to go about getting it. We do it with integrity. We do it with inspirational passion. We do it with a sense of confidence. We do it with a sense of fuck you because we believe in what we want, but also that we're going to do it on our terms. We're not going to be placated. We're not going to be duped. We're not going to be sold a bill of goods because we're willing to take whatever the big powers offer us. And so if you don't have a sense of values, if you don't have a sense of vision, that's how life is. You kind of wander aimlessly. Having a mission, that's different than a vision, by the way. A vision may take you your entire life to recognize it or realize, and your vision may change slightly. It's just kind of, it may take on a different form, may take on a little bit more texture, a little more depth as you go. because we're talking about the overarching kind of theme of your life and the impact you intend for that to make. Your mission, though, that's different. Your mission is very short term. It's usually got an externally verifiable metric attached to it. You may say, hey, I want to write a book by the end of the year. I want to make $1 million by a certain amount of time. You may say, hey, I want to inspire 10 people to do X, Y, and Z in a certain amount of time. Lose this much weight, for instance. You get the idea. That's a mission. And it's so important for leaders to have a mission, to have something that they wake up for and attack on a daily basis. Make sure that not only do they wake up for that and attack it on a daily basis, but make sure that it benefits and provides for people outside of their own needs. That's a sense of mission. That's leadership. And then, of course, doing it with a sense of purpose doesn't mean that you necessarily have to know your purpose. It just means that you are addressing it and attacking it with a sense of purpose, showing up on a daily basis. You know, when somebody has a sense of purpose, you ever seen that? When you see somebody who walks in a room and they just sort of have that it factor, that pop in their step, chest out, chin up, ready to rock and roll. Not arrogance necessarily, although sometimes people that are arrogant are also very purpose-driven. Nothing wrong with that. But it's that kind of interesting, attractive quality. Even the very quiet folks, the more tame kind of, humble people will have a sense of purpose. They can be pretty cool too. That could be one of the very attractive things that you might have been attracted to with your spouse, your partner, whoever that might be. Maybe they have a sense of purpose in life. Their purpose doesn't always have to be business related or career driven. Sometimes they just have a sense of purpose that they want to be the happiest, most fulfilled person they can be. My point is this: excellent leadership overall, organizationally, starts at the individual place, the individual level. We each individually owe it to ourselves to discover what our version of 52 Hertz is and to live in that frequency. I'm not talking about some metaphorical or metaphysical woo-woo shit. I'm talking about actually figuring out for ourselves through our values, through our vision, through a mission, and through a sense of purpose on a daily basis, showing up to that. When you do that, here's the good news. Unlike this poor whale, who supposedly is the loneliest whale in the world, you will start to attract other people, other true drivens, people just like you who think like you, not an echo chamber. I'm not talking about this bullshit you see with like identity politics and all this fucking horseshit that's going on right now. I'm talking about people that genuinely have on the character level, a desire to want to rise to the next level of their performance, the next level of their personal excellence. That's not identity politics. All that bullshit, that is low-level scumbag shit. I'm talking about true leadership, my friend. I'm talking about transformational living, the ability to live through an example that others seek to follow, that aspire to rise to. That's the frequency we're talking about. That's the 52 Hertz of life. That's the 52 Hertz of leadership. And I'll be honest, when I read this book, I read chapter 1 and I'm already hooked. This is not a book review. I haven't finished the book, and maybe when I do, I will do a review on the whole thing. My encouragement and the whole point of today's episode is this. Number one, realize you have a home here in the True Driven community. I'll be bringing lots of different resources for you guys. You can choose to partake in those if you wish. But my point is this, is at the very least, this podcast, this area, this place is your home. You have a place. This message, if you resonate with it on any level, was uniquely designed specifically for you. My challenge to you is, of course, go share it far and wide, not just to build out my followership, but because there are people out there right now that are desperately needing it. They're thirsting and hungering for that. Now, the next step to that is go do that for yourself as well. Create either your own message platform, or if that's not your jam, if you're like, hey man, I'll let JT do the communication piece of this. I'll let him do the podcast thing and all that kind of stuff. I just want to show up and to be the best version of myself at work, the best version of myself in my business. Then guess what, my friend? That is fucking awesome. That is what we're talking about. That is mission accomplished for me. But more importantly for you, that is what you are going to start to reap the benefits from almost immediately. If you've ever suffered from burnout, it's likely not because you're working too hard. We can always work harder. It's not about working harder. It's about working with alignment. It's about being aligned. It's about being in your 52 Hertz, if you will. It's not about taking time off for a personal day. It's about going, fuck this. I'm tired of swimming upstream because of the dam that I broke, trying to force a point and an agenda in an environment that doesn't work for me. A lot of times we create the stream that we're swimming up against. We create that hill that we're climbing up when we're constantly feels like we're Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill every single day, right? My point is this, is that as a leader, you can avoid those things by simply speaking your truth, aligning with your values, your vision, your mission, and a sense of purpose. By not being afraid to speak your mind and to speak your truth. By being somebody who doesn't care about the consequences. Start dropping this idea that there are consequences. Yes, you're going to get scraped. I'll be honest. I will say this, the harder and the more bold you are and the more convicted you are with your beliefs, you are naturally going to have people that push against you just by virtue of you being convicted. Your conviction will piss people off because they lack it in themselves. And rather than finding it in themselves, they would rather attack those people who have that conviction. How dare you speak out? How dare you say that? You insensitive whatever. And they start throwing names at you or gaslighting you and doing all the things to make it out to make you look like the crazy one. You got to have the courage, but also the critical thought to be able to see through that bullshit. Throw up the fucking middle finger and say, fuck this, and move forward with your values, vision, mission, and purpose. Not from a place of trying to harm people. I know you know this, but let me just say this out loud in case there's anybody who's a little slow on the uptake. We're not talking about going out like pirates and slitting throats. What we're talking about is about being a person who is connected to your values, your vision, and your purpose, and having the courage and the conviction to stay on the path. Even in the face of great adversity, even when it comes from people that you know, love, and trust, even when it comes to people that you live very closely to and hold near and dear to your heart, when they start to question you and tell you that you're wrong or tell you that you need to tone it down or you maybe need to water it down, I'm encouraging you to not do that. I'm encouraging you to stay at your 52 Hertz, sing your song, live your truth, and have the courage and the conviction to carry that flag so that you can set that example and set the tone for other people around you who desperately need somebody to lead the way. By the way, if you're somebody who falls into that second category, maybe you have been beaten up a little bit in life. That's life, man. Life happens. Here's the good news. You have what it takes to make it through that. If you're somebody right now who's like, listen, man, this whole idea about personal leadership sounds great, but right now I just need somebody to lead the way. That's okay. I got you. You can follow my lead. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to take the bullets in the face for that. I'm happy to take the fist punch to the face for those of you who right now need that little extra encouragement to get up on your own feet, to find your own sense of your big four, and to get that stride under your feet. That's fine. You got a home here as long as you want it. And for those of you who have found your feet, who have found your strength, who have found that conviction, let's go shoulder to shoulder. Let's work together on this. Let's come together and unite. Regardless of what your background is, regardless of what your philosophical beliefs are, I don't care about your politics. All I care is that if you have a passion for leadership and a passion for personal excellence and a passion for helping other people find their leadership and their personal excellence, then you and me, my friend, we're going to fly formation together. You're always welcome to be a part of the True Driven community in that respect. I want you guys to feel a true sense of what I felt when I read this passage. When McManus stated that point, my mission became to find those who hear at 52 Hertz and make sure that they know they're not alone in the world. I want to make sure my mission is understood by you. I want you to know that my mission is to find those who are of the true driven persuasion, that hear at the true driven frequency, and make sure that you know that you're not alone in the world. That's my mission. And I'm grateful that I get to do it each and every single day. And so, if you're on board with that, make sure that you follow and subscribe here on YouTube, follow it on the other platforms, and please share it far and wide for other people who need to hear it as well. And as important as that, as much as it means to me that you would do that for my message, find your own as well. Even if it's not in the form of a podcast or a book or a program or a training syllabus or any of that kind of stuff, whatever that looks like for you, if you coach Little League, if you lead a family, if you lead an entire community or an entire nation, make sure that you find your 52 Hertz. Whatever that looks like for you, sing it loud, sing it proud, sing it with conviction, and sing it from a place of service and wanting to help other people. And in so doing, they will rise to your elevation, they will fly in your formation, and they will be a part of your mission as well. All right, my friends, that's what I got for you today. Make sure that you like and subscribe, share this far and wide, and remember, no matter what course you fly in life, fly high, fly fast, fly far, stay driven.